Hi. Hi, Rekha. Are you good to go? Is Sanjay on the call?
Yes, I am. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
Sanjay.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
How are things going, Sanjay? How's Pune treating you?
Pune is treating me well. I'm in total lockdown.
Okay. Like everybody else. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Ashwini,
I
I
think we'll
assume
wait
you are
for
running the
Rekha.
slides.
Yes, sir. I'll be running your slides, sir.
Yes, I will indicate to you saying next slide, please, and then you move forward. Okay.
Sure, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll wait for Rekha to start and then Sanjay to take over. Yeah.
We'll just wait for another 2-3 minutes. A lot of people are joining in. So
How many in the waiting room or queue or wherever it is?
So there are 2 people in waiting, and currently we have 201 people already joined. Now it's 202.
Okay. On this platform?
Yes, sir.
And how many on Google and how many on Facebook?
So that I'll just let you know.
Okay, no problem. Send me a WhatsApp. No worries.
Sure, sir.
I think Rekha had a number that had registered.
In mine, I know.
666.
666, yeah. Okay, whenever you start, Rekha.
So maybe I can start, Mr. Kirloskar?
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
So good evening, everybody. You have been listening to us talk already between the three of us. A very warm welcome to you. It's a great evening and a great speaker. Somebody who never fails to amaze everybody with his grasp of making any presentation very simple. So delighted to welcome Shiv. Shiv, thank you for doing this for us. And thank you, Mr. Kirloskar, for once again letting me pull you into moderating a session. Great to have you here. I also want to thank our sponsors, Brijmohan Lal Munjal University. They have been great knowledge partners to us, and delighted that they are here. Just before I hand over to Mr. Kirloskar, I want to tell you about the balance sessions this week. So that in case you have not registered, it will give you enough time to register for those. We have a session tomorrow, which is 28th April, on changing business strategy to tackle post-COVID blues. The speakers are Mr. Pramod Bhasin, he's the chairman, Clicks Capital Services, and Mr. Manoj Kohli, country head, SoftBank India. And this session will be moderated by Mr. Pranjal Sharma. On Wednesday, 29th April, we have a session on disruption proofing supply chain, something which is probably of great interest to everybody here. The session speaker and moderator is Vineet Agarwal, Managing Director, TCIL, and Devendra Chawla, CEO of Spencer Retail, is the other speaker. Thursday, 30th April, we are talking about Beyond COVID, Relief to Recovery to Resilience. Session chair and moderator and speaker is Dr. Ganesh Natarajan. And the other speakers include Mr. Dev Bhattacharya, he's Senior Executive President and Head of New Ventures, Aditya Birla Group, and Rashmi Ranade, co-founder, Studio Corporate. Friday, we have a session on how India will drive global leadership in technology, the road ahead. This is being chaired by Karthik Sharma, Director, Agnito. He's also the chair of Wild Sea Events. And the speakers are Mr. C.P. Gurnani, CEO and Managing Director, Tech Mahindra, and Mr. Saket Modi, co-founder and CEO at Lucidius. I think that's about it for the time being, and we'll get back to you with further sessions later. So over to you, Mr. Kirloskar, after this long list.
Thank you, Rekha. And I'd like to thank all of you for being with us this evening. The numbers that were mentioned, 666, it's a great response for this fifth session of AIMA's Leader Speak series. Once again, and I'm playing like a broken record, with so many delegates, it's important that we don't have any confusion during the session. So all delegates must be muted. Question and answers obviously are going to be done only through the chat mode. Participants should post their questions in the chat window to any speaker, that's me or Shiv, or and speakers can view their questions in the chat window, and then we will respond to that. Thank you all for joining this session. I'd like to welcome AIMA past president and Aditya Birla Group president for strategy, Shivakumar, to this session. Prior to this responsibility, Shiv was chairman and CEO for PepsiCo. And before that, he was with Nokia as CEO. Shiv has been a CEO for half his career and was one of the youngest CEOs in India. He also worked with HUL, that's Hindustan Unilever, for a number of years, mostly in marketing. Shiv writes and teaches regularly on innovation, leadership, followership, business models, digitization across leading business schools in the world. Thank you, Shiv, for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have all of you with us this evening, and a very warm welcome to you all once again. Shiv, thanks for agreeing to do this special session on reinventing the organization for automated businesses. It is a very topical issue, and I would think that most would want to know how to go about automating businesses and how to ensure business continuity under all circumstances. Shiv, you've been CEO in a variety of industries and led technological transformation in each of your organizations. Who better than you to tell us how to go about transforming the organization for an automated business? Ladies and gentlemen, the sad news is world over, almost 3 million individuals have now been infected by the COVID-19 virus, and over 200,000 have died. This pandemic and the lockdowns have changed the business landscape for now, and possibly for a very long time to come. Business continuity under all circumstances has become a critical priority, and the time has come to use technology for more than just business efficiency. The potentially on and off restrictions on movement and the fear of contamination require businesses to become as autonomous as they can. But that's easier said than done. Our existing organization structures and systems are not really suited to automated business, and new capabilities and mindsets are required to build self-driving companies. Typically, business processes and outcomes have too many variables, and in most businesses, decisions are arbitrary or discretionary. Very little happens as planned or agreed to in advance. Immediate revenue and cost concerns bend processes towards transactions, and many a times away from the strategic objectives of an organization. A hodgepodge of technologies and applications across the organization prevents standardization and synchronization of processes. Business autonomy will henceforth require new markers and barriers for behavior and the high level of business portability and integration across the organization. Automated businesses require not just a grand vision and a big technology budget, but plenty of agility as well as humility. Leading change by demand and coercion produces only short-term gains while causing long-term damage to the organization. A radical and sustainable reinvention of the organization is needed, and it requires all stakeholders to be on board, especially our employees. Employee resistance may turn out to be the biggest cost in any transformation. Employees, at least the critical ones, need to be convinced that automation would replace their current work and role with better ones after automation. Moreover, employees determine how well the automation project goes and how well the automated processes function because they tell the machine what works and what does not. The way to get employees and other stakeholders too on board is to start automation with the unpleasant tasks and the processes where employees add little value. We know that earlier automation attempts succeeded spectacularly when they addressed safety as well as jobs that were repetitive or unpleasant. It also helps to start with activities where automation can produce immediate revenues or savings. Stakeholders tend to be more accepting of incremental business automation than betting the house on a one-shot transformation. A good way to prepare the organization for comprehensive automation is to start by simplifying and integrating existing structures, processes, and technologies into easy-to-use platforms. Change is challenging, and everyone from the top to the bottom in the organization must help with new ways of doing things. Leaders need to build automation facilitation expertise in the organization instead of leaving everybody to figure out things for themselves. However, as businesses must focus on core propositions, they need to build partnerships with technology companies and automation service providers. Now, every business must see itself as a digital business and automate itself in order to be up and available. Shiv is the expert on organization and technology issues, and he can guide us in reinventing our organizations for automated businesses in the post-COVID era. It is therefore my pleasure to request Shiv to share his thoughts with us. Shiv, all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Rekha. Thank you, Sanjay, for that kind introduction. As all of you know, as Rekha mentioned, I was the past president of All India Management Association in 2012, an institution I have very fond memories and fond links with. Sanjay, of course, is a very good friend, and we have great times whenever we meet for our AIMA meetings across the country and also across the world. Can I have my slides up, please? So I'm going to talk to you, as Sanjay mentioned, about automation and business impact. This is what I'm going to cover for you. I'll possibly take 25 minutes, and then we'll have question and answers, and please feel free to ask me anything that you want. Okay. Next slide, please. What I'll cover for you today over the next 25 minutes is what's the concept of the corporation as studied by Peter Drucker in 1946. And there's a reason why I start with that. Then I'll talk about what has been early machine automation across the world. Then I'll talk of digital automation. Then I'll talk of automation and structures and what happens when you automate an organization and what happens to a structure within the organization. Then I'll have 2 slides on robots. Where are we on robots and what's the threat of robots replacing human beings? And then I'll talk about small enterprises, SMEs, where some of you work in, or even large enterprises. And what are the 3 parts of a company and how does one look at the 3 parts of a company and really automate it for success? And then I have a final slide on summary. Okay, so this is what I'm going to cover for you for the next 25 minutes. If you look at what organizations truly want, they want efficiency, they want productivity, they want collaboration, they want flexibility, they want accuracy. This is exactly what organizations want day in and day out. I cannot imagine any organization saying we don't want efficiency, we don't want productivity, we don't want collaboration. So the whole concept of automation is to improve on these 5 words that I've really put out on this slide. Next slide, please. If you look at the concept of the corporation, it was the landmark book. This book was published in 1946. Around that time, a few years before that, Peter Drucker, who was then 38 years old, sat down with Alfred Sloan, who was 68 years old, and they decided to study General Motors, which was one of the largest enterprises in America. They decided to study General Motors with a view to say, how does a large corporation work and how should it work? That was the concept of the study. And Drucker worked long and hard for 2-3 years, interviewed everybody in General Motors, and finally wrote this book. When he wrote this book, General Motors was not happy. General Motors was not happy because they felt Drucker did not praise them enough, funnily. They thought he should have praised them more. Even though he praised them, they said we needed much more praise. And that's a fallacy of most large organizations. They want more praise for the basic job that they're doing. But what Drucker proposed was fundamental. The first thing Drucker proposed was management systems and the way an organization decides and works. Number 1, systems thinking. The second innovation Drucker proposed was profit centers. He said, General Motors is unwieldy, let's break it into profit centers. The third thing which Drucker said was MBOs. Till then, there were no management objectives. It was a Drucker innovation. Then the fourth thing Drucker talked about was span of control. He said, in that era, 1946, a manager can have 8 reportees to him. Today, the world is very different in automated world. I used to have close to 20 reportees to me in my last job. And finally, he talked of the role of General Motors in society. These are the 5 big things that Drucker talked about. The role of a company in society is still a very valid debate. Span of control, MBOs, profit center, they've evolved, but they're still concepts worthwhile today. And management systems is absolutely paramount for any organization. So what Drucker studied nearly 70 years ago is valid today with variation. Next slide, please. If you look at early automation, the early automation was around typewriters, was around telex machines, etc. So in that era, the secretary was the information hub. So if today a search engine is an information hub, you go to a search engine to search for something, in any corporation, the boss's secretary was the most important person. And secretaries down the line were very important people because they had access to information. They would type out the memos, they would type the transfer letter, they would type the letter to the customer. So everything revolved around having good secretaries. So this was early automation around the 1950s and 60s. Next slide, please. Next, if you look at a fundamental thing which changed workforce was automation at home. In World War II, a number of men went to war, both in Europe as well as in America. Because they went to war, women started to work. And what really helped women work in the workplace was the concept of the refrigerator, which is the 1951 advertisement I'm showing you here, the concept of the microwave oven, the concept of the dishwasher, the concept of the washing machine. These 4 helped women to work. And the original concept of work-life balance was actually coined for women, which said that you work in the workplace and you went back home and these machines helped you achieve work-life balance. And if you look at the picture to the right there, a refrigerator of a household full, look at the simple cue that fresh fruit can be kept fresh in a refrigerator. That was the cue to refrigerators in the year 1951. So these, vehicles at home, these machines at home ensured that women came to the workplace. And after that, there's been no looking back. Next slide, please. Now, early home automation, all these machines have become better and bigger and hence have made the life of the housewife far better and easy. Along with all this, like microwave ovens, etc., the food industry developed, the cold chain developed, every single industry developed in order to meet the needs of the housewife who was time-starved. So all the innovations in food at that point of time were aimed at the time-starved housewife. Next slide, please. Now, if you look at automation after that, I moved to 1971. Roy Tomlinson, who was in digital, he sent the first email ever. While the first email ever was sent in 1971 on the ARPANET, it took up till 1995 or so for email to become standard feature in every organization. It took 25 years. Now, almost every company, almost every individual in the world today will go and look for an email account if he has either a laptop or a mobile phone. So 1971 was the first serious attempt at this. Now, what did this do? It brought lots of people concurrently together at work by 1995. It also ensured that we could share files, we could work together, even though we are not in the same office. So that's what email did. It was a fantastic collaboration tool in order to get all of us on the same plane at one stroke. Next slide, please. While 1971 was the first email, 1992 and a combination of Nokia and Vodafone delivered the first SMS. Imagine in that era, there were pagers and there were phones. Phones could receive message but could not send it back. By SMS coming in, and this was a happy Christmas message in December of 1992, phones then added the messaging service. And in the early phones, if you look at it, messaging was regarded as a value-added service compared to the phone call, which was what the phone was for. And then most of us got hooked on to short message service. So the next big innovation in automation happened on the mobile phone, not on the laptop, which was the SMS. Next slide, please. Then we got Wi-Fi. The whole concept of Wi-Fi was last mile connectivity. This was known as IEEE, and Interbrand, the company, branded it as Wi-Fi. which is wireless fidelity, and then market it very well. So today, wherever you go, the first thing you look for is there a Wi-Fi network? So if you go to an airport, you go to a railway station, you go to a restaurant, the first question you ask is there a Wi-Fi network? And that helps you stay connected, both with your office mail, with your personal friends and everybody. Imagine the day when airplanes will have Wi-Fi in the flight. I guarantee you that people will fly from Bombay to Delhi, a 2-hour flight. They will make the presentation on the flight, get down, go to the client, make the presentation and come back. So they'll use the 2 hours to connect with everybody on the ground in their company, get all the data and make the presentation. Today, they'll have to do it before they board the flight. So Wi-Fi has given enormous speed, enormous reach, and ensured that we are always connected at any point of time. Routers have become significantly faster and significantly better over the last few years. Next big automation is actually WhatsApp. WhatsApp is 10 years old, believe it or not, 2009. And I put John Combe as well as Brian Actors, their pictures here. These guys used to work in Yahoo till 2007. Then they quit Yahoo. They applied for a job in Facebook. They didn't get the job. They were rejected. Then they went to an Hawaiian island and thought about what can we do in technology. And then they came with the concept of WhatsApp. The whole point was you don't know if people have read your message. You don't know if they're connected. So the double tick was an innovation they bought in. And early days, they really didn't get much traction till they improved the product. And when they launched it in Feb 2009, promptly 250,000 people signed up for it. And after that, there's been no looking back. And the reason they called it WhatsApp was they wanted the usual greeting, like a hello, which is to say, what's up? So what's up translated to WhatsApp. And it's important for me to signal it here because I'm going to link it back in the end. So go back, 1971, first email. 1992, first SMS. Then you had Wi-Fi. And now 2009, you have WhatsApp. So as you look at it, all the innovations in automation are becoming increasingly personal. They're becoming one-on-one. What started as a company initiative for email, WhatsApp is now the ultimate one-on-one automation vehicle. Next slide, please. If you look at automation, a lot of machines around us have undergone dramatic transformation. Let's take the Airbus 320. Fly-by-wire has been around since the 1930s or before that. Now, virtually, the airline, if you look at the pilot today, he's focused on the first 5-10 minutes and the last 5-10 minutes. Through the rest of the journey, it's the autopilot which flies. There was a joke in The Economist a few years ago which said, in a future world, there'll only be one pilot and there'll be a dog sitting in the cockpit. The pilot, to ensure that he gives confidence to the 200 people sitting behind that there's a human being, and the dog to ensure that the pilot doesn't touch anything. They said that automation will reach such a high level that the plane can take off on its own, land on its own, and do everything safely. Fly-by-wire has actually helped us get there very, very quickly. Okay. Next. Sports. Automation in sports has been dramatic. And I give you IPL as an example. If you look at all the stats which a Harsha Bogle or anybody else puts during an IPL, look at the amount of stats today thanks to automation. You know the bowler's average, you know the bowler's average in death overs, you know the bowler's average when you start, you know the batsman where he'll hit the ball, what's the maximum area where he really scores the runs, etc. So every single thing around sport has been automated. In tennis, you know exactly where a Federer serve will go. You know exactly where a Nadal serve will go. Okay. In football, you know who are the best passers, how do they pass. Today, we are using VAR in football. It started, last year. Today, it has become standard practice everywhere. It was not there before. It was left to the umpire or the referee. So the maximum impact of automation, I submit to you, has actually happened in sport. Like, for example, in tennis, you have the call at the service line. Every single thing is automated. It has made for much fairer approach to sport, and it has given joy to the viewer because he can now get immersed in the sport. Equally, it has given opponents a very clear example of what are the strengths and weaknesses of either a batsman or a tennis player or a golf player or whoever it is. So sports has been automated dramatically thanks to all these new techniques. Next slide, please. Whenever we talk of various things, we talk of, big corporations, like I started, General Motors, etc. The biggest automation is actually the Indian Railways, the IRCTC. IRCTC on any given day has 6 lakh tickets booked up and meals, etc. On a busy day, it has anything between 15 to 20 lakh bookings. This whole thing is computerized. This whole thing is automated, and this whole thing works. Lock, stock, and barrel. There is no other system like this in the whole world. It's an absolute dream come true. And just to imagine that many years ago in the 1970s, the railway people went on strike for some salary and, most important, for computerization. It's such a complete change today that the same railways which went on a strike because of computerization today is the hallmark of automation for the world. Next slide, please. If you look at automation, what does automation do in structure and behavior in an organization? I think thanks to automation, a number of companies have asked, what is the core that I need to do and what is outsourcing? Because of outsourcing, we've had business process outsourcing dramatically. So every company is focused on its brand, on the raw material sourcing, on its distribution, on its strategy. Those are the core. Anything which can be outsourced can be outsourced. I remember when I started my career 30 years ago, my company, Hindustan Lever, used to have a travel department. Today, no company has a travel department. Okay. If, in the XLRI board, we were discussing 2 months ago that we don't need a hostel. If we have a campus, we can outsource the hostel to OYO tomorrow. Why do we need to run the hostel? Okay, so anything which is not your core, the core of a business school is to teach management. Why does it need to run a hostel? So anything which can be outsourced is outsourced. Second, in the past, we had rigid structures. Today, we have a matrix organization where there's fluidity and people report across lines. We have dotted line reporting. We have parallel reporting. Okay, we have centers of excellence, which then feed into the main organization. We have location-free roles. You can work from Dubai, you can work from Bangalore, you can work from Singapore. We have work from home once a month or twice a month in every company. Then we have BCC, what I call BCC in political organizations. If people want to tell the boss what they are doing, but they're writing to their colleagues, they'll do a BCC. That is what I call a political organization, and that's the downside of automation. And finally, we have what I call the tooth to tail ratio. Tooth means customer-facing roles, and tail means backend. In most small companies, the tail is bigger than the tooth. In most good organizations which are automated, the tooth is much bigger than the tail. Next slide, please. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT were on even before COVID started. I believe it will only accelerate after COVID. We have less than 1.5 billion PCs in the world. We have 3.5 billion smartphones globally. So which means almost all the work that you're going to see right now, except for really heavy manufacturing, will happen. Automation will happen on the smartphone, is my submission to you. Next slide, please. If you look at robots, there's always a constant worry that robots will take away our jobs. Robots will start by taking over repetitive tasks. After that, after a long time, they will come and replace human beings. There are 2.4 million installed robots globally. In 2018, there were 422,000 sold. The top 5 countries account for 74% of robots: China, Japan, Korea, USA, and Germany. So robots have not proliferated. Where have robots really proliferated, and where do we believe that they'll have the biggest impact? Next slide, please. The biggest impact of robots will be in the transportation sector, in the auto sector, in the manufacturing of cars, in the automation of cars, etc. Second is in all of manufacturing, welding as an example, heavy lifting as an example. Okay, the kind of things that Sanjay and his organization do. Construction is a third example where you'll see a lot of robots coming in. Administrative services is another place where you'll see robots. Chatbots is a great example. Wholesale retail trade, 30% impact over the next 10 years. Transportation, 50% impact in terms of job over the next 10 years. And education finally will be about 10%. That's basically because between standard 1 and 10, you need high quality teachers to really fire the imagination of the kids. Whenever you have a good teacher, you have great students. If you are not able to do that, then it won't work. It's only after 10th standard that online can replace that. But till then, you need very, very good teachers. Next slide, please. Self-driving vehicles. Waymo is a very good example. I know that Waymo has had a number of problems, etc. It has crashed in a few places, not been able to adjust to some things in traffic, but I think it'll get better and better. I've had the pleasure of sitting in a Tesla in UK, and I asked the driver, can this be an auto car? He said yes. He took his hands off the wheel, and for about 4 kilometers as we are going towards Heathrow Airport, the car ran on its own. I think the advances will be rapid, and I personally believe you will see this in the next 3-4 years, self-driving vehicles, and we'll all get comfortable with it. Just like we got comfortable with fly-by-wire in terms of aircraft, the same will happen here. Next slide, please. What startups truly want at this point of time is to be lean, is to be agile, and is to scale up quickly. This is what they want. Next slide, please. If you look at any organization, big or small, there are 3 blocks to an organization. There is a backend where you buy raw material, you're getting buying efficiency, you're doing vendor managed inventory and things like that. Then you have the engine room, which is the production, where you manufacture your product or good or service. Then you have key metrics there, and then you look at variance. And then you have the front end, which is customer facing, supply chain, revenue management, inventory management, etc. Now, if you look at customer and front end management, it has always been left to the sales guys. Today, if I want data, I can get it from the sales guy, I can get it from IT, I can get it from finance, I can get it from anybody. What terms are used by which customers is getting more and more transparent. The key across this chain is to get as much information in an open, honest manner as possible so that everybody in the chain has that information. If you look at the back end today, all procurement managers used to rely on their relationship with the supplier to say, he does this for me. That is being disrupted right now. In the last 4 years, we've had a new concept called MRO, which is maintenance, repair, and operations, or maintenance, repair, and overhaul. I'm giving you 3 examples. Moglix is a company, Industry Buying is a company, Bulk MRO is a company. These are 3 companies already here. They're young companies. We are already using them in the company I work, and a lot of work is being done in terms of taking out cost of buying. What are they doing? If you're buying a refrigerator, if you're buying a bottle, you're buying anything, you give them the specs, they aggregate all the demand for many clients and give you the best rate. Today, they are committing to a 3 to 5% savings as a result of this. The engine room, Frederick Taylor studied time and motion study many years ago, and we have systematically got better and better and better at it in terms of driving efficiency. In terms of the front end, the earliest you had as a vehicle in your hands, if you're a customer facing guy, was a pager. After that, we moved to a smartphone. Today, wherever you're in the world, you can log on to your smartphone, you know exactly what the customer account is, how much he's bought, what he's paid, every single thing. So information and trying to get as much information as possible by automating is the real engine for every single company. Next slide, please. So the cloud grew with Amazon in 2006. So small companies would have no access to IT infrastructure. Today, they have full access thanks to the cloud. And this will only get better and better. Salesforce is a great example. You can ensure that the full thing is done by them. Today, all small companies or large companies are on a pay-per-use model for automation. You no longer have to have fixed costs. You no longer have to have PhDs to run your system. Next slide, please. These are chatbots, which most companies are using in order to address customer queries, but non-standard queries is not something that chatbots can answer. Next slide, please. Look at Facebook. Facebook global base is 2.5 billion, India base is 330 million. WhatsApp base is 2 billion globally, India base is 440. Facebook has introduced workplace in all the institutions. What does a workplace do? If I'm working in a company like Godrej, which uses it extensively, You post it irrespective of hierarchy. Anybody can see your post. So what a workplace does is it takes away the hierarchy layers and ensures that the truth comes to the table. That's what automation does with a thing like workplace. Let's take WhatsApp. Today, WhatsApp is used for business. Today, WhatsApp is used for decision making. Okay, so WhatsApp has applied for a bank license, and the moment you can pay through WhatsApp, you're through. You're completely there. So WhatsApp today, Make My Trip is using WhatsApp for you to do all your bookings. And every single thing is just a WhatsApp message. Okay, so this is at the level of the enterprise as well as at the level of the individual. So my last slide at the end of 24 minutes now. So in summary, we've had automation for a long time. Automation was studied by Peter Drucker in the concept of the organization. And he gave us a few concepts like MBO, span of control, etc. Over a period of time, we've had many automation coming through. The email in 71, the SMS in 1992, and WhatsApp in 2009, and in between Wi-Fi. Each of them has ensured that we moved from a large enterprise ticket item to something which is in the hands of the employee. Today, we have 3.5 billion smartphones and only 1.5 billion PCs. So the future of work, I believe, will be automation and software and cloud, all led through the smartphone. That is what I see it as. So at the end of my 25 minutes, thank you very much, Rekha. Thank you very much, Sanjay, for asking me to do this. It's been a pleasure to do this for you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shiv. That was a great presentation. I was happy to see you started from home. That automation also began at home and freed really millions of women to get jobs and earn their own living, and maybe to a certain extent led to the feminist movement. I really don't know if that's the right thing to say. We have, as usual, a large number of questions, and there's great participation that we have this evening. And I'd like to start with someone who went ahead of time and posted his question even before we started, Mr. Swaminathan. He says that we would like to know how automation will impact employment as we know today, and how with automation we can progressively prepare our younger generation for a long career. My reading has always led in the end to upgradation of skills and knowledge, and to convenience, like you have pointed out. And each of us needs to be ready to learn new skills. This has happened ever since the Industrial Revolution, leading to more jobs being created. There's always this worry that will automation kill jobs, but actually it has led to more jobs. And if I could just give the example of a person who made carts, well, he would have lost his job, but today millions of people can really afford automobiles. How do we prepare our younger generation for a long career? I think, what has always been done, teach the new generation new skills with new tools. Long careers, I mean, new tools, the ones that we are seeing right now, whether they're online tools or whatever. Long careers, I don't know how many of them will go for long careers. You already see a lot of people retiring very early, having made a lot of money. But I think at the end of the day, with automation, their lives will be more enjoyable than ours have been. And I would compare that to the lives our grandparents had compared to the ones that we've had. Shiv, would you like to comment on this question?
Yeah. So every time automation has happened, typically in that industry or in that stream, about 30% of the jobs have got redefined or changed. But automation has created a whole plethora of new jobs also. And that's what's called moving up the curve. And as I look at it today, I think problem-solving skills, innovation skills, creativity skills will get more enhanced as you lose the basic run-of-the-mill routine jobs. That's what will happen.
Okay. Mr. Krishna Kumar says, good evening. What are the ways the retailer and neighborhood stores can integrate seamlessly to giants in e-commerce? And what modifications would you suggest to ensure they're part of the system with automation? Would you like to take that?
Yeah. Yes. So if you look at it, what JioMart has done is exactly that right now. They've integrated technology, given the small retailer the access to the people around him, and they've said there's a minimum value order to be put. And because of its scale, Reliance has ensured that all the products and all the private label in its range is available to this person. So this person has a wider range to sell, and he's better connected with his customer. I personally believe that you will see more of it. Even if you look at what's happened right now, it's the Kirana merchant through WhatsApp and through SMS who's really saved many households for food and for daily needs right now as COVID has happened.
Yeah. The next question is from Mr. Diptyan Bhattacharya to everyone. How long would it take to introduce the concept of automated business in extremely remote areas of India? I think government is doing quite a good job, and so are private companies, to connect India. And whether it's banking, I mean, in all sectors of the economy, you see India getting better and better connected. I had a problem last month when I had to pay the salary of someone who works for me but lives in a small town. And I was able to do it in a matter of a few minutes after having set up the protocols. So I think, the first thing that is needed is people should want to do it. And once you want to do something, you always find a way. Would you like to answer that as well, Shiv?
No, I think you answered that,
Okay.
Sanjay.
The next one is automation is good for the organization, but unemployment will increase. What is your opinion? This is from Mr. Subhabrata Sarma, President, Guwahati Management Association. For you.
For me? Okay. So
I thought I'd give you this one.
So if you look at the history of India, now forget COVID. COVID is an odd example of what has happened in the last, let's take 5 weeks. But if you look at any society, as you've had automation, people have moved up the chain. Productivity has improved, efficiency has improved, products have become far better. So if you look at India as an example, through the boom that we've had automation from about 1991 to 2017, 18, our unemployment rate has been roughly between 5 and 8%, right through that period. So, and the best example I gave you is actually Indian Railways. The very people who went on strike because of computerization, and see where Indian Railways is today. So I believe we end up doing higher order jobs, and society reconfigures that. Okay, there will be some industries where automation will have more of an impact, and that's fair. Okay, I'm not saying no, but I think in every place, I think we get better and better. Let's take news channels. All news channels are challenged. But on the other hand, every single citizen is a journalist today. Every single citizen can take a picture and send it, and he can actually monetize it. Okay, so suddenly we have 7 billion journalists as opposed to having only 10. In the past, we had to form our opinion in the office based on the editorial of one editor. Today, you talk to 20 people, 50 people give you opinions, you make up your mind. So I think we get better and not necessarily create more unemployment.
Sanjay Srivastava asks, how do you think the medium-sized enterprises are gearing up for digital transformation in their business processes? I think, anyone in business or everyone in business actually will have no choice but to transform digitally. There will be large organizations that will be driving this for their vendors. There will be smaller organizations which will come up with new ideas and become large, or force the larger organizations to gear up for digital transformation. What do you think, Shiva?
I agree. I fully agree with you, Sanjay.
Okay. From Ramesh Lakshmanan, he says, previously it was called make or buy. Now it's called have or hire, to say in simple terms. He wants to know whether you have any comments.
No, I think I go back to what I said about core and non-core, and I think that is the key to it. If somebody else can make something cheaper than you, then you should use that person. Why would you do something more costlier? I think in every industry, there'll be a race to be the lowest cost producer. There'll be somebody who will be the lowest cost producer. There'll be somebody who will be value added, and there'll be somebody who will be innovative. And people will pay the right price for that. Okay. So you should never compete on price if you're not the lowest cost producer. That's my lesson, in this whole exercise. So try and keep your costs as low as possible. Outsource. All travel departments used to be overstaffed before. Now you can go to, anybody and do a travel booking. You don't need to have a travel department. Why were you having that extra cost? Same thing with every company, every factory used to have its own cook, its own kitchen. Today, you don't need that. So I would say, cut away all the flab in which you're not good. You focus on your product, make it the very best. You focus on your service. You focus on your customers.
Yeah, the other thing he's brought out is have or hire. And I think by that, he's talking about an asset-light model. People nowadays, for example, I understand that there are companies that rent out furniture. I've seen that in America. My daughter was a student and she was working in Cambridge for a little while. She didn't buy furniture. She just hired it out by the month. So people are moving to asset light. I mean, if you look at cars, what is Uber? What is Airbnb? It was all doing things without having the asset, but just making it available.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think there is a very underlying philosophy there. And the underlying philosophy is no permanence and migration. Remember these two words. A lack of permanence. If I come to Bombay as a young manager and say, you know what, I'm going to live in Bombay for 2 years, then I'm not going to buy anything. Okay. A young girl comes and says, I'm going to get married 2 years from now. I'm going to go back to Bangalore or to Chennai. I'm not going to buy anything. Remember that. So these two factors, especially with a young millennial workforce, is what works. Having said that, now with COVID, imagine COVID has happened for 5-6 weeks. Okay. People have not been able to go out. The very same millennials, if I was in Maruti Suzuki, etc., I will say, hey, you know what? You just went through a crisis when you didn't have access to a vehicle. Maybe you need a vehicle. Think about it. Even if 100 millennials, 5 people buy it, I'm happy. So how do you use the current crisis, either on health or on mobility or any of these issues, to sell to the millennials who've been the biggest proponents of the share economy?
Come to think of it, Shiv, we ourselves are not permanent.
Absolutely.
Most of us have between 60 to 70 years on Earth, though we believe everything will stay on. But that's how life is. Mr. Gurcharan Singh wants to know how automation is correlated with COVID-19. I really don't know.
I just said that I think with COVID-19, it will accelerate. I think you'll see a lot more work in the area of health. You'll see a lot more work in the area of insurance and capital, etc. I give you 2-3 examples. Okay. As soon as COVID happened, my insurance agent called me and said, Shiv, Max Bupa is offering some fantastic policies. Would you like to do this? I said, sure. What's the policy? What's the premium, etc.? I paid for the next 3 years for me and my wife. Max Bupa called me, did a whole check in terms of my history. They approved it. I have 2 policies in 48 hours. Next, I have 2 bank accounts, one with a bank in Gurgaon and one with a bank in Bombay. The Gurgaon one is a multinational bank. The bank in Bombay is HDFC. I needed to transfer 10 lakhs of rupees to my wife, who is locked down in Gurgaon. So I called my bank in Delhi and said, can you transfer this? They said, no, Shiv, we need a physical signature, etc. I said, fair. Then my assistant called HDFC in Bombay and said, Shiv needs this for his wife. They said, if he gives us an email approval, we'll do it. I did an email approval, which is an automation process, and the money was transferred to my wife. I'm giving you 2 live examples, which I have gone through in the last 1 week.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Tushal Varghese, and this is a question for you. I'll also answer it after you. Baiju's biggest share is class 1 to 10. They've recently tied up with Disney for elementary standard, I guess, education. There is no presence of live teachers. Any thought?
No. See, a lot of Baiju is supplementary. Remember, it's not the main. That's what I'm trying to point out. So you go to a school and you take Baiju and the mom and kids sit with the child and go through that experience. What I meant was you will never get rid of teachers from standard 1 to 10. They will always be there. Higher up, you can say, I will learn whatever I want through whoever I want. But you still need to go to school. That's the point I was making.
Yeah, and I think that human touch, even now, most of us, especially those who are alone, really want that human touch. So I guess there will be always humans around. This can only be supplemental. Mr. Gurvinder Singh says, how can we address the issue of employment in the era of automation? Though automation is welcome, but up to what extent? I think this has been answered. I mean, there's a lot of questions about automation and employment. And every single time something new comes up, there's always this worry, what will it do to employment? And until now, every single time, employment has kept on going up.
Yeah. So if you look at it, imagine tomorrow, if you had robots and machines which took care of your health completely. If a mission critical operation was handled by a robo, okay, you would start trusting them more. So that's what I would say. I don't think we should ever worry about it. There will always be the initial hiccups. There used to be initial hiccups about the mobile phone. There used to be initial hiccups about the laptop. There were initial hiccups about the flight. Comet, at a particular point of time, 3 of comets split. But that's okay. But over a period of time, they get mastered.
Dr. J.K. Gulati says, in our parallel economy, there will be more taxes of indirect nature to be paid by the middle class for governments to have more in their coffers for feeding poor, registered eligible class of Indians. This scenario is visible to all of us in this COVID phase. Any comment?
You go ahead if you want to say anything.
I think, I would agree to a great extent with what government has been doing. We have to ensure right now that everyone is safe. Everyone has enough food to eat. And we know that this phase is not going to last for too long. We will come out of it. There's always human ingenuity. We will have a vaccine. Maybe it will not come quick enough. The action of lockdown has attempted to flatten the curve, and compared to the rest of the world, India has very few cases that are known. So I think, there will be indirect taxes. People who will have to protect the have-nots. Finally, all of us are in the same boat. Would you have do you agree, disagree with me, Shiv?
Yeah, I see, this has taught us that all of us are equal, and the role of governments is extremely critical. The role of central banks is extremely critical. Okay, we cannot do without them. And I think there will be a very significant impact of government policies over the next 5-6 years because of COVID.
Arun Pandit, what is the prospect of automation in offline sales? Will we be able to replace salespeople? Any examples of EQ? I guess he means emotional quotient for automation.
Yeah, so I'll answer that one first. A lot of people are trying to work to see if they can get robots to cry and robots to show feelings. Okay, that work is on, but I don't think they've mastered it or perfected it as of now. Okay, I'm sure all of you have seen on YouTube, Sophia and all that stuff. We've attempted what I call service sales or offline sales. For example, because we have a network of retailers, both in PepsiCo as well as Nokia, we've called them up and said, hey, is your stock level okay? Do you need sale, etc.? So we've had a back-end BPO which contacted customers, essentially for top-up. So the main job must still be done by the salesperson, that you cannot replace. But the top-up can be done by somebody else. Okay, so this we've experimented. It has worked in some parts, not worked in some parts. Okay, so I must tell you that. In Nokia, in the care center, we've ensured that we've called out to as many people as possible, all the people who come to repair their phone, and we have spurred them to use the next phone because we know how many years they've used the current phone, and we've told them, hey, here's a new phone which has come, why don't you buy this? So that can be a trigger because you have the care data with you. I'm sure in Sanjay's company, if there's a pump which is 10 years old, they might call that guy and say, hey, maybe you need to upgrade your pump. We have a new pump for you. So that is completely possible from a service center. That's how we've used it in the past.
You know, I'm reminded of the time when my daughter was 3 years old, and this was almost 25 years ago. And we had bought her a disc, which we could put in those computers, and this was called Radio Edition. And there were these balloons with numbers floating across the screen, and she would be asked, what is 3 plus 4 and what is 5 plus 8? And she had to pick up the right balloon, which had the right answer. And they had like 15 or 16 different statements that the computer would make if she gave the wrong answer. I think I would have gone nuts if she gave me the answer 3 times, wrong 3 or 4 times. But this CD at that time also had a way of making sure that her learning was enjoyable when she was 3 years old. Jibu Paul, he comes in every evening. Jibu, thank you so much. You're a wonderful person. You join us every evening. He says, Shiv sir, what is the future of contract manufacturing in India after COVID? And I hope that this will decrease unemployment in our country.
So if you look at many industries, in some industries, contract manufacturing has been very good. In some industries, contract manufacturing hasn't come up very well. The basic reason being adherence to quality and adherence to global standards. I believe we will see the development of big contract manufacturers, even in India, in the coming days. The best example I can give you of a very large contract manufacturer globally is Foxconn. They're coming to India, to the old Nokia plant. Foxconn is the largest phone assembler in the world. They make phones for everybody. Now the question is, why can't we have somebody like Foxconn in every industry? I think it's eminently possible, and I believe India will get some of that in the future world. It won't happen tomorrow morning, but I think over the next 10, 12 years, you'll see it.
Okay. Assuming that tomorrow's aircraft pilot could be more of a computer geek than a landscape perceptor, what would a corporate leader be? Would you like to take that? Since you've been...
Go ahead, then I'll answer it. Please go ahead.
You go ahead. I think...
Okay. Sure. So I think, see, one of the things about corporate leadership is the world changes dramatically now compared to the past. So I think if you start with the leader first, in the past, we valued what I call strategic ability. The most important thing for a leader today is strategic agility. Nobody imagined COVID would happen. But in 5 weeks' time, we have to be agile enough to answer what is needed in our organization, almost certain. So I think agility is absolutely key in a very fast changing world. That's one. Second is, I think leaders have to operate much more in the gray. We are very comfortable with black or white and say, hey, give me an equation, 2 plus 2 equals 4. I will say yes or no. That won't happen tomorrow morning. I think repeatedly, you'll have to work in the gray area. So you'll have to get uncomfortable with many of your decisions, and you'll have to take decisions in that area. Directly as a correlation to that, you will have to get comfortable with failure, you as well as the organization, both, because there will be nothing called a successful decision time and again, day in and day out. And the last thing I'll say is we have what I call migratory employees. We have volunteers. These are not employees anymore. They have volunteered 2 years of their time. They volunteered 5 years of their time to you. You should be grateful to them. Handling volunteers requires inspiration. Handling volunteers requires purpose and things like that. That's the kind of leader that you need to be. A leader who is a tick in the box leader, a leader who is an old style leader, a leader who is an insecure leader, he will not survive in tomorrow's world. And finally, a leader needs to learn and unlearn far faster than his whole team. Otherwise, his whole team will have no respect for him. What you did 10 years ago is irrelevant as a leader. What you're going to do tomorrow is more relevant. Those are the things I believe that a corporate leader will have to undergo dramatically in order to meet a future world.
So someone who is humble, someone who is agile, and someone who is a visionary, who's able to change with the times, I think that's the answer that you wanted to give. What about robots in the medical field? Are any used during the treatment of COVID patients? I think robots have been there for quite some time, and they've been operated across continents for
Yeah.
doing all kinds of surgery. I haven't heard of any robots in the current phase of treatment, especially because I think there's no handling to be done of machines other than needing proper care. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I agree.
Yeah. From Amiya Dash, he says, your view on engineering education and how automation can help. You know, during this period in our own company, we've looked at the product that we make. We've looked at our people, we've looked at our customers, and we've been conducting webinars on a really big scale in the last few weeks to train our own people, to train our customers. In addition, we're also looking at, Shiv, you may not know our Kirloskar township. We run our own water supply system.
I
We
know.
also
In the
run,
100-year celebration, I saw that, Sanjay.
but this was put up about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And we also have in Magarpatta city, which is a part of Pune, the entire water supply network. We run it from our own office. We know what's happening. We know what's going on over there. So I think if a 100-year-old company could do something like this, there are far better companies who can look at their products and look at how customers can utilize them far more efficiently, or maybe even run them for their customers so that the customers, have that higher model instead of have model.
True.
So I think there are quite a few more questions. Rekha, what do you suggest? Because we are at 7 o'clock and this session ends at 7.
Well, I've got about 70 questions in the pipeline, so I don't think she would be able to answer all of those.
Yeah.
So how much time? We can go on for 5-7 minutes more, I guess.
Yeah. So let's say hard stop 7:15. Okay. So let's go 14 minutes.
Thank you, Shiv.
Yeah.
That's kind of you. Mr. Varghese again has a question. Is there any scope for automation in government? I think government, there's a lot of things automated in government. Remove redundant employees from public sector also, not just private. Any comments, Shiv?
Sanjay, the biggest automation project which everybody forgets is Aadhaar. Aadhaar.
Yeah.
Let's not forget it. It's given so many benefits to everybody and cut away subsidies, every single thing. How much we've saved thanks to Aadhaar.
Yeah. So I think we haven't even realized the amount of automation that Government of India has done in collaboration with Indian companies. I think Infosys was involved. Nandan Nilikani ran some projects for Government of India. I think we just have to look around us, and it's not only Government of India, it's also the many public sector banks that have done a lot of stuff, public as well as private sector banks that have automated things. There's a question from Shivakumar Rajesh. He says, what about students who can't afford online classes? Are they going to be deprived of technology? How can such students cope up?
I think most online classes are actually free, believe it or not. Okay. There are a few of them where you need to pay. That's one. Second is content being what it is. For example, we are in discussion with all of you, me and Sanjay. This is content which can be valuable to many students. It's not paid for. It will come up on the AIMA site. So I think you need to look for the content. I don't think poor or rich is an issue in a digital world. Digital does not differentiate between rich and poor.
There is always a what next, says Sulabh Singhal. I agree, right? I agree this time. Also, many entrepreneurs are at work, but what is the impact of automation after this crisis? I think automation is only going to increase faster, whether there was this crisis or not. I mean, this crisis probably has given a fillip to certain parts of automation, working from home, a lot of people who offer such services, whether it is Microsoft Teams or Zoom, platform that we are on, automation is going to happen faster and faster. And this is just one more event that has increased the speed. Any comments, Shiv?
No, I agree with you.
Okay. Dilip hasn't given his last name, but his question is, how about augmented intelligence? Capturing and providing knowledge with applied context with the help of AI for reuse by humans and machines, chatbots, RPAs, robots in the work they do. Any comment?
No, I think you'll see increased levels of that. We already see this. The thing is, let me take one of the points he's made, which is chatbots. A lot of companies have chatbots to deal with their customers, but they are standard repetitive questions. Where can I find this product? Which outlet? How far? How do I use this, etc.? That's what it is. If you have non-standard questions, then a chatbot cannot do it. Okay, so anything which is non-standard, you cannot automate to the same degree, which is the point I made earlier about problem solution as well as creativity. That cannot be outsourced as yet. But even with chatbots, consumers don't want to deal with a machine. So if I ask a question of a chatbot, the consumer wants the chatbot to take a few seconds before the answer comes. In the perception that, okay, this man or machine or woman is thinking about it. Okay, so there are many things that you need to get right as you go through this process. Let me give you one real life example of my personal this thing. I talk to a number of people, I'm on Teams, etc. But if I really want to know if Sanjay and I are working, if I really want to know whether Sanjay will meet his targets or not, I will fly down, sit in front of him, look into his eyes and say, Sanjay, will you meet your targets? The moment I see his eyes, I know whether he's going to do it or not. Okay, that can never be replaced either on Teams or Zoom or whatever you call it.
Right now, maybe in a few years, computers will learn to recognize emotion. And I think, we talk about jobs. I think for artificial intelligence, a lot of kids probably will get into this arena because there are going to be more and more applications where AI will be used. So, we talk about what's going to happen to jobs, but there are new fields that are opening up where youngsters can get jobs. Divya Srisailam says, can you explain the need for updating syllabi in professional courses by higher education in view of automation so that students can place soon and go in pace? I haven't understood the question.
No, I understood the question. I think that's a very, very good question. If you look at ITIs, about 3,800 of them or 4,000 of them, in many of them, we are still running analog courses. Okay, we need to change to a digital course. Whether it's a mechanic, whether it's an electrician, whether it's whoever it is, he needs to understand the whole concept digitally. Next, take something which I'm very familiar with. Take the business school courses. A lot of the business school courses need to change to a digital world. A lot of what is being taught today is still an analog syllabus. Things have changed dramatically. So I think all institutions across the world need an overhaul of their syllabus. And I think more than anybody else, the teachers need to get far more practical. The teachers need to be at the leading edge of learning for them to transmit this into syllabus and hence their students.
Thank you. The next question, I think, is from Hyderabad. Nagesh Vishwanathan, he says, Shiv Garu, you've given a lot of things to improve by automation. Do you suggest a software which will take care of all the concepts automatically? Please suggest for an organization. No.
See, that's what I told you. This is the catch. We all want condensed information capsules which will do the job for us. It doesn't work like that. Finally, managers have to exercise their judgment. Citizens have to exercise their judgment. There is no AI which can substitute your judgment.
And human beings will still be required.
Absolutely.
And I think the next question falls in the same space. How do you define entrepreneurship in context with automation? I think it's more of the same. Entrepreneurship will stay as entrepreneurship. Maybe there will be many more fields that will open up with automation to do things for entrepreneurs. Subhabrata Sarma says, if robots perform so much of work, India will lose its advantages of having young population. Your views?
Go ahead, Sanjay.
Yeah,
You take it.
there will always be work for humans to do. I don't believe robots, like we've mentioned before, robots are going to do the dirty work. They're going to do the unsafe work to begin with. And I think humans will move up the chain to do work which robots can't do. That has been with automation. That's always been the case. Today it's robot. I mean, yesterday it was a refrigerator that kept things cool. That did a lot for us humans. Similarly, robots are also going to free us up to do works of a higher grade, even in India. That's what I feel.
I'd agree.
Mr. Ranganathan says, with fast changing technologies, the level of automation is also on the rise everywhere. How do companies integrate these fast changes in their strategic management? Every company will have to have a different answer for itself, right?
Yes.
So you will have to decide what level of automation you want to go based on, number one, how much you can afford. Number two, what kind of advantage you would like to have, over your competitor. You can always take a risk as to what you would like to do with the level of automation that you want to bring into your companies. Rajiv Jain says, how can small companies automate? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's the easiest actually. I think you can completely do everything on mobile phones. You can completely do a pay-per-use model. You don't need heavy hitting PhDs in your organization. You can outsource the whole thing. So I think you don't need an office today. You can work from a workplace which is hired. So there is nothing you need to take on your books as a fixed asset. That's the biggest advantage which an entrepreneur has today, which was not there before. And equally, you have access to the whole world. Let me give you a simple example. If there is a health food company, okay, and I work with a health food company called Sattva Foods, okay, they can have access to all their customers and sell from home, even in a COVID situation. That is dramatic. Okay, access to markets. So if on the street you live, if there's a housewife who can make a fantastic chocolate cake, she can sell it on that street. She doesn't need to go anywhere else. So I think at every level, every small, entrepreneur, micro entrepreneur, every housewife who has a skill in cooking, everybody who has a skill in something, you can shop around. Today, if you look at the creative people are the best placed. They shop their talent around. They don't work for anybody. They're on the net. They say, hey, this is my capability. If you want, hire me. I will come and do a work for you for 2 months. So I think there's never been a better time, thanks to the internet and automation, for a truly skilled and capable person.
Colonel Gulati has a question for you. When will India be self-sufficient in infrastructure to have total automation? Now, this is
Okay, it's a good question. And I think, Sanjay, were you there in Horaces? Rekha was there, certainly. Not Horaces. In Spain this year?
Yeah, last year.
Okay. Last year, sorry, yeah. So one of the things I said there, guys, is important, General Gulati. I said India will always be a work in progress country. There will never come a time when we can say India has completely arrived. I would still stand by that. In 1991 was the first cover of India Today which said, India, a middle class boom country or whatever it is. We are still waiting for the middle class after 29 years. Okay, so do not expect India to transform itself overnight. Even at $2,000 per capita, it multiplies 5 times, it will be $10,000 per capita. You'll still have many countries richer than us. So please look at India as a work in progress country. We should be extremely proud of all that we've achieved in the last 73 years. And I believe we'll achieve a lot more in the next 73 years. But never come to a definitive statement to say India has arrived and that's it. That never works with India.
Thank you, Shiv. I think more than your answer, Colonel Gulati would have been very happy with the promotion you gave him to general. So I guess there's a minute left. So I'll close on hard close on 7:15, like you said. So thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. On behalf of AIMA, I'd like to thank the audience for their participation in this 5th session of the Leader Speak series. Shiv, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. You did it as usual, as enthusiastically as I have seen you in person. So thank you very much. And on behalf of AIMA, a big thank you to BM Munjal University for sponsoring this session. So with that, thank you everyone, and good night. Have a great evening. Maybe that's a better one.